with our TypeScript.
Gotcha. Let me know when to start.
We are good now. My apologies again.
Okay. Welcome back, everyone. Happy October.
Happy October.
Next slide.
Hacktoberfest. It's Hacktoberfest month.
Yes. Only a couple things on today's agenda. Open source contributions, reminder for SAS updates, reminder for the mentor meeting, and then attendance. Next slide. Open source contributions. So the most important factor in your grade this semester, what we'll mainly be looking for to make sure that you were doing work while you were here, is your open source contributions. Of course, these are contributions that, one, have been committed to a project repository, hopefully that of your RCOS project. Two, can be code, probably will be code, but can also be really anything else. Images, documentation, text files, audio, video, markdown, anything at all. And of course, these can also be related to the development itself or training. So something we commonly see in RCOS is that new members to a project or new members to RCOS spend a couple of the first weeks of the semester learning something. Maybe they're learning Rust or they're learning React, and they take an online tutorial on some other website, and then they realize after a couple of weeks that they haven't had any open source contributions in the project repository. So to prevent that, if you are in that scenario and you're learning on the side, make some contributions about what you're learning. So if you're taking a tutorial, commit some of the work that you're doing as part of the tutorial. It's difficult to tell whether you were actually learning something for a month or you forgot to do anything for a month. So don't worry about committing things that aren't code. It's actually great to work on documentation, especially if it's documentation for the members of the team, maybe creating like guides for development guides or things like that. So just don't end up in the scenario where you realize that you've been learning, but you can't prove that you've been learning anything. And if you're wondering whether something is considered open source contributions or not, just reach out to either Professor Turner or any of the coordinators on the Discord, and we'll let you know on a case-by-case basis. Next slide. And a couple reminders. Of course, you really should have a repository on GitHub or whatever platform you're using by now. If you're a project member and your project lead has not created one, or you've not been told about one or invited to one yet, reach out to them, let them know. If you are a project lead, make sure that your team members know about your repository and have access to it in some way. Again, it has to be public. You have to be able to give us a link to it, and we need to be able to see everything that's going on there. Discord users should have access to their small group category and team channels by now. So thank you to everyone last week who let me know that they didn't have access to them, and I fixed it. So if you're still in that same boat, reach out to me or one of the coordinators, and we'll give you the Discord roles you need to see your channels. And of course, submit your SAS update this weekend. It should be open by now. And try not to forget about those at the end of every week. And only other reminders, mentors, please check the mentors channel. We're trying to have a mentor meeting next Tuesday after the presentations, probably around 5:15. And following this presentation, I'll make sure that mentors can see the project channels for their small groups. And I believe that is it.
Okay, I'm still going to jump in and say something. Otherwise I don't get my screen time. The only other thing I want to say is if you're worried about cluttering up your main repository, and you want to do a documentation trail, make sure you write it as a tutorial, and you can even open up a satellite repository in your own account, or keep things in your own branch of your own fork of your project. You don't have to, the requirements are it has to be related to the project, it has to have a license, and the license has to be an open source license. I think Frank kind of touched on it has to be an open source contribution. That means it has to be licensed, and we can talk about why. Please ask us. I love talking about why. If it's not licensed, it's not open source. All right, thank you. And now we will again segue into our info. Where is it popping up now? There we go. So on Submittee, the come on. The password is open source ! We like exclamation points and superlatives. And there is the venue check-in. I guess you guys, the venue check-in doesn't necessarily help. The after hours guys, you'll have to watch this on venue to find out what the venue QR code looks like. But here is the information to attend. Everything should be open, and we will stop this now. Thank you, Frank, for doing a retake.
No problem.